y'all. Welcome to the Bless Your Books blog. Tonight we have my co host Courtney Turner Hoyle and our guest Alfred Muller. So, would you all like to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about your books?
Certainly. I'm Courtney Turner Hoyle. I'm a multi-genre writer. I just recently released Finding David. It is the second in my It's About Time series, and I'm going to be releasing Under Orchard's Dome in June on the 16th. Alfred?
I'm Alfred Muller. I'm an independent author of my debut novel, The Water Crystal, Rise of Azrael Kaimana. It's a supernatural fantasy in the first in a long series that I hope to write over the span of my career.
That's amazing. So, what do you think sets your book apart?
I think that for the genre that I write in, mostly dealing with angels and demons, the focal point that I've put on the human characters is something I haven't really seen in many stories that consist of angels and demons. Normally, you see the angel or the demon being the main character, and sometimes that could leave the reader kind of alienated because we are human.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Where do you get your inspiration for your characters and your plot?
A lot of it comes from when I was a kid, being forced to go to church with my parents and my grandmother, but over time, just that interest in like what else is out there. During church, I mean, the Bible doesn't give a lot of detail into what actually occurred between angels and demons, or what continues to occur between angels and demons. So I kind of go into that area of the in between of what you could read in the Bible and kind of guess at what would occur. And then from there, I kind of extrapolate plots and how we would deal with those situations if they came into our reality. If a demon shows up at a graduation party for a bunch of high schoolers, what would occur? If an angel walked into church and told you to come with him, what would you do? And I kind of get my inspiration from that. And then, of course, there's TV shows and myths and legends out there, too, that I kind of dig into when I'm bored or want to read some interesting little factoids.
Have you ever had a personal experience, something otherworldly that you couldn't explain?
Yes and no. So there's been like little things. My aunt lived with us for a short time when I was younger, and she brought a Ouija board in, and I had a basement bedroom. So while I was in the basement before she moved in with us, it was fine. I never felt like there were eyes on me. I slept fine. But after the Ouija board, I felt like there were eyes on me. I felt like I was being watched. I ran up the stairs every chance I could because I felt like someone was following me. And then like little things, I'm big into believing that dreams are maybe not gateways, but there's more to dreams than we know. So I kind of think like that bridges the gap between our world and the supernatural. So there's some dreams that I've had that just feel way too real and are kind of creepy and dark. And I wake up in a cold sweat and I'm just like, all right, maybe tomorrow will be a better night for sleep.
So with your dreams, do they ever find a way into your work?
Yes, I got some writing advice when I was younger. And it was just some internet advice. So I only took it with a grain of salt at the time. But basically it was dreams don't make great stories, but I do think that they make great anecdotes for stories or inspiration for stories. So there have been dreams that I've had, especially when I'm thinking about my novel all day, and then you go to sleep and obviously you're going to dream about what you've been thinking about all day. So I've had some really cool ideas come to my story. And without giving too much away, I actually had one dream where I had wrote the story and it was one of the first drafts I had, and I had finished it finally. And then I sat there and I had a dream about it. And I was like, oh man, that would be such a better opening. And I had to rewrite it. And thankfully that first version is heads and leagues behind where I am now. And I ended up taking that idea that I had in my dream and rewriting the entire story to base around that. And I think it's better for it.
So so you told us about that, but what about your next book? Can you tell us anything about
Yeah, so I'm actually working on the sequel to The Water Crystal. It'll be called The Water Crystal, The Fallen Angel, and I am basically done with. So I split my books into parts. So book one had 4 parts. Book two will have 4 parts. I'm basically done with part three, and I've started a little bit on part four. So the sequel is almost done. It follows the continuation of the story. Anthony is still trying to deal with all the fallout from book one. Anthony is my main character. He made a deal with the devil, and unfortunately, one book wasn't enough to solve those issues. So he's continuing that journey in book two. I'm also working on a young adult novel based around dreams, where the main character, Jax, is a young kid, and he ends up kind of like when you start to realize, and you mostly, for most of us, it happens around high school or maybe after high school, where you realize all your childhood dreams, not all of them are possible, and that unfortunate dawning of reality kind of settles on you. For him, it happens when he's 10, and he messes up on a breakaway in his hockey game, which is for the championship, and his team loses, and he's so depressed, and he realizes that if he made that mistake, what if he isn't good enough to make it to be a pro athlete? And a lot of it is also like negative thoughts for a kid, thinking the worst of every situation they face. But basically, he ends up having nightmares, and the nightmares are more supernatural than everyday nightmares, and that ends up fueling the story for that book.
Is that taken from your personal experience somewhat, like from your childhood and young adulthood?
Yeah, actually a little bit. I loved the sport hockey growing up, and I kind of had back when MySpace was a thing. I had one of those little countdown things of my last chance to get into the NHL, and it kind of dawned on me after high school. I was like, I really wasn't doing much, which it was my own fault that I really wasn't doing much to make myself enter the NHL. But I kind of took that as inspiration, and then just the thought of experiencing dreams and how when you dream you're flying, you feel like you're flying. That cool sense of putting reality's laws of physics kind of on pause and experiencing cool things outside of that.
I've seen some pets in the background. Do they ever make their way into your stories?
Uh, yes and no. I say that a lot, but so I have a 3-year-old son, and I tell him a story, and the couple of the dogs have made it into that. I don't have many additions just yet, but I have so many works in my mind. Uh, One of them actually is going to be more of a traditional epic fantasy style, and I do have what she's right here.
Oh,
That's my dog Raven. She's going to make an appearance in that book. This one right here, that's Killian. He's in the little story I tell my son about driving on a tractor with his pet dog. And then I do, unfortunately, for Anthony Luther in book one, there is a little flashback where he loses his first dog, which I found my first dog one morning before school, and unfortunately she had passed away of old age. But that's kind of made it into my story.
that's so sad.
It was very sad, but I look back on it now with more fond memories of all the good times I had with her.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of glad I'm the one who found her, kind of to put a bookend to our relationship.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure a lot of readers really resonate with that too, because everyone's lost a pet at some point in their lives, or if not a pet, someone they care about. So,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I actually think that's kind of where I go with my stories. They tend to have happy endings, or at least I try to make them have happy endings, or at least
mhm.
um, endings where you could feel satisfied with. But I do touch upon a lot of darker elements that we deal with in every day, because I find that that's the best way we can cope. Uh, my family had a house fire, and dealing with that has made its way into my stories. When I was younger, kind of battling with my faith, those kind of issues that we struggle with, that it's nice to know someone else has gone through them. And I have been fairly blessed in my life, so I know there are others who have had way more traumatic events occur, but I have friends who have lost family members, parents, and have had worse things occur than I have in my life. And I've talked with them, and I kind of try and add those to my book as well. Trying to, again, one, find motivation for my characters, or unfortunate for them, trials that I could throw their way, and then also show that you can overcome those trials by the end of the book or the series.
Have any of your readers commented that something has really touched them on a personal level, or something's really made a great impact on them?
A couple. I most of it's my family. I do have a couple of readers that I met at the conference that I met you at, and they were interested in the stories. And one of them, my short story, "The Reaper Society," is about a group of kids who are orphaned or kind of forgotten by society, and they go around and they actually reap the souls of the recently deceased. And someone who I was talking to said that they had some dark times in their past, and the way that the book was written had really touched them and made them happy that even kind of like the idea that someone else out there, whether it's something supernatural or more along the lines of, there are others out there that have experienced the same thing I have. My dad was actually a first responder at 9/11. So when he read it, again, seeing what he saw, it kind of made him feel almost like one of the Reapers in a sense, where he was like, at least someone was there for those victims. So there's a couple of things like that. I hope that I reach many more readers, and they are forthcoming with how my books have touched them.
So we've gone over kind of your author journey. So in addition to that, do you have any other hobbies or personal pursuits?
So I've heard this term a lot on TikTok recently, and I do view myself as a creative more than just an author. But I've always got ideas spinning around in my head, and some of my hobbies include, one, watching sports, mainly hockey. I do play D&D with my friends, Dungeons and Dragons. So that has found a way for my creative outlet. If I can't necessarily work it into a story or a book, or I may not have time for an idea, I play it out in my Dungeons and Dragons campaigns. I also I don't know if I'll ever pursue it. I'd like to. It'd be kind of cool, but I do like write small scripts for maybe TV shows and movies and stuff like that. My focus, of course, is writing mostly novels, but that's kind of a cool little hobby I have on the side, just to get some other ideas out there. And it has actually helped me when I'm having some writer's block, just writing something other than what I'm focused on. Outside of that, I like playing with my son. He's big into monster trucks right now, so we play little games with that, pretend we're racing. Unfortunately, a lot of my hobbies revolve around creating.
I don't think that's unfortunate. I think that's great. I do call myself an author and not a creative because that's all I have. Some of my children can draw. That missed me completely. I might be able to do a stick figure, but that's pushing it.
Stick figures is my pinnacle of my artistic style in that discipline.
Yeah, I understand. I'm not an artist in that capacity either. I do love photography, and I owned a photography company for about 8 years. Shot a lot of weddings and family portraits, different things like that, event photography, and worked as a journalist and took my own photos to go with my articles. So yeah, definitely I think of myself as a creative too, and love graphic design. Anything that I get to be creative while I'm doing it is wonderful. I wish I could draw, but
but photography,
that's everything.
There's
Photography
a
is
handful
amazing.
of authors that I know that are like photography, and that's got to be just a great way to find like inspiration for writing something. Even if you just take a picture of something, it's like, wow, that could be a great scene in a story, and all the detail you can get from something like that's really cool.
So we always ask our guest, what is your favorite Southernism? Because we are the Bless Your Books blog. So bless your heart. We all know what that means. We're all from the South. So, what is your go to Southern phrase? Or if you don't have one, do you have a favorite Southern recipe or aspect of Southern life that you really enjoy?
So I apologize if I butcher this, but it's can't. Oh man, can't whip at a snake. Uh, I've only heard it a couple of times, but it just every time I hear it, I can't understand it quick enough, and it or can't spit at the whip of a snake. Something, it's something like that. But that one, and then obviously bless your heart, I find absolutely amazing because it really does embody the South, where we are extremely pleasant and nice, but at the same time we realize what some people may be lacking when they do dumb things. And then as far as food go, I didn't know. So I grew up in New York and then moved down here about 11 years ago. But up north, I've never put jelly on a sausage biscuit. And down when I came down here, my boss was like, "You got to put jelly on." And I was like, "Jelly and sausage? That does not sound appetizing." And it is now one of my favorite breakfast meals. So
That's funny. What did you think of biscuits and gravy when you moved here?
biscuits and gravy are everything that you can hear the hype about, especially sausage gravy. Uh, the McDonald's stuff is okay, but you got to get homemade.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to find a Southern granny who can fry up the real deal for you.
Chicken and dumplings too are amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
I love dumplings.
Hmm. Yeah. My grandmother, she made the best. I can still taste them when I think about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I
Oh,
wish I had the foresight to ask for the recipe, but of course she wouldn't have had a recipe because she was a true Southern cook who just eyeballed everything. She
yeah,
knew
that's more pay attention to how I do it because I don't have a recipe for it.
mm-hmm.
That's the thing, though, about dumplings and about casseroles in the South is that any ingredients, they're wide open. I mean, you
Yeah.
want pineapple casserole? All right, we'll whip it up. I mean, see what we can do.
Yeah, that is true. Is there anything we've not covered about your books? Anything exciting going on for you that you'd like to share before we go?
So one last thing about my books is they're very character driven. So the story is expansive. It's kind of told in an epic fantasy style, even though the setting is more modern and rural. Uh, but it's told with grand storylines and massive character arcs. But the characters are the focus of my stories. And then as far as anything cool coming up, I have a convention in Louisville, Kentucky called the Imaginarium Convention. It's geared towards science fiction and fantasy, paranormal, that kind of stuff. I'm going to be speaking on a couple of panels. I don't know which ones yet, but there are some panels about Star Wars. Is it a sci-fi or a space opera? There is also uh, panels on Dracula, and then there's a bunch of authors. The author of the Shannara Chronicles, and one of a supernatural fantasy story called Running with the Devil. Terry Brooks. He's going to be there. He's like the main guest, but that's July 14th to 16th.
That sounds amazing.
It should be
Congrats
fun.
on
I'm
that.
excited.
Wonderful. Well, please keep in touch with us and let us know how things are going.
Absolutely.
Very excited for you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for being here with us today.
No
Yeah,
problem. Thank you guys for giving me the opportunity.
for sure. Well, have a great night. And thanks
Thank
to
you.
everybody for joining this episode of the Bless Your Books blog. Have a great evening.
Bye.